In the principal's office, the principal told a student that some people had raised concerns about his admission, questioning what benefit it would bring to have someone involved in a scandal among them. The boy already knew that since the previous year, children of political and business insiders had begun transferring to the school with over 200 requests submitted. The principal had rejected most of them, but had made an exception for this boy because he trusted the boy's father's integrity and believed in the boy's potential. He reassured him not to take it the wrong way, but urged him to clean up and prepare before his first day. The boy agreed to follow the instructions. Later in class, a teacher entered and grew angry with the students for neglecting their homework. He mentioned that there was a new student and asked him to introduce himself. The boy stated that his name was Gyeonwoo from Hanam. The other students commented on how cute he looked and speculated if he was the one involved in the admission scandal. The teacher then directed Gyeonwoo to take the seat beside the class president, Hyun, and told him that it would be his place from that day onward. Hyun was unwell at that time. A boy teased him, calling him a loser and saying he was just lucky. The teacher told everyone to be quiet and instructed the student assigned to cleaning duty to wipe the board and prepare for the lesson. When the class ended, Gyeonwoo mentioned to Hyun that schools in Seoul had many students and then greeted him. Hyun replied that if Gyeonwoo wanted to stay there peacefully, he should avoid interacting with him. Soon after, other students approached to greet Gyeonwoo. One asked if he was the son of the congressman who had recently been in the news. Another pointed out the holes in Gyeonwoo's ears and asked when he would get them pierced. Yet another questioned whether he had moved to the city with his father. Gyeonwoo answered that he didn't quite understand what they meant, but was happy to meet them all. At that moment, another boy came by, asking about the transfer process and noticing Hyun still sitting there. He demanded to know why Hyun was still present. Hyun, looking frightened, said that he was about to leave. The boy criticized him for being rude and asked if he thought he could remain unnoticed just because there was a new student. He then kicked Hyun, declaring that Hyun was like a thorn in his side and warning him not to think he would be spared simply because of Gyeonwoo's arrival. The boy then asked Hyun if he wanted to spend the night in the garbage incinerator, and some of the others commented that it sounded like fun. Gyeonwoo apologized to them, explaining that he was trying to talk with his deskmate and requested that they leave for the time being. One boy asked if Gyeonwoo knew what Hyun had done, but Gyeonwoo replied that he didn't care and only wanted them to leave Hyun alone. He warned the troublemaker to find his seat before he made him do it. Although the boy brushed it off, he and his friends eventually left. Gyeonwoo extended his hand toward Hyun and suggested that, even if it was just nerves, they both could use something to eat. He asked if Hyun knew where to get some snacks and offered to treat him. Hyun hesitated, but Gyeonwoo brought him along. Meanwhile, the leader of Class 2 heard about Gyeonwoo from Hanam and tried to recall where he had come across that name before. In the canteen, Gyeonwoo bought food and drinks. As he noticed the different coins used for the transactions, he wondered what kind of money it was, since he had never seen it before. He then remarked to Hyun that it wasn't so bad. Hyun asked how much Gyeonwoo knew about their school, and explained that a very famous student was enrolled there, the son of the vice president of the Songmyung Group, one of the 3 wealthiest companies in Korea. The school had once been notorious for its troublemakers and violent students, and several teachers had resigned because they could not endure the atmosphere. However, things had changed after the heir of Songmyung began attending. Hyun was uncertain whether it was entirely true or just a rumor, but people said that as soon as the heir arrived, he had gone to the principal and proposed introducing a new culture to the school, a culture built around gambling. He had secretly created his own currency and circulated it within the school. Each coin was valued at about 100 won and was valid only inside the school. To spread them, he had first distributed the coins to the bullies in each class. Using this system, he encouraged the entire school to gamble, and before long, he had taken complete control. Although there had been considerable resistance in the beginning, once the coins started functioning like real cash, instances of violence decreased, and even the teachers began turning a blind eye. Gradually, he accumulated more power as the children of wealthy and influential business and government elites transferred to the school to be associated with him. The boy's name was Tai, the 3rd-generation heir of the Songmyung Group conglomerate. 7 children of Korea's most powerful political and business leaders became part of his entourage, and together their group held all the power in the school. Jeonwoo expressed surprise that the principal had not mentioned any of this when they spoke, and that even his father had said nothing about it. He then asked if Tae had called Hyun a backstabber because Hyun had tried to oppose the group. Hyun replied that ever since Tae's arrival, all kinds of depravity had been normalized: violence, cheating on exams, and gambling. It was not only the students but also the teachers who had sold out and become slaves to money and power. As Hyun spoke, tears began to fall, and he confessed how much he hated the situation. He wondered aloud why anyone would even come to the school to learn if all they cared about was power and corruption. Jeonwoo agreed with his words. At that moment, Ju Mong, the leader of Class 2, appeared. He remarked that it was amusing to watch Jeonwoo's display and questioned why they were speaking about him behind his back. He demanded to know if they wished to die. He scolded them for creating trouble by reporting him to the Ministry of Education and claimed that now, as class president, he had the right to overstep. He warned that he was not finished with Hyun yet, and Hyun trembled at his words. Jumong then turned to Jeonwoo, saying that his name sounded familiar, and suddenly remembered why. He recalled that when Jeonwoo was a child, he had roamed Hanam and even Seoul, where he fought and defeated many kids. Jumong described an incident in which Jeonwoo had knocked someone out cold. He asked if it was true that Jeonwoo had broken up the BK alliance in Seoul, and whether the rumors were right that a single punch from him could send someone straight to the afterlife. Jumong added that this was the reason Jeonwoo had been called the first fire of Hanam City. Jeonwoo told him to shut up, and made it clear that he disliked that nickname. Jumong replied that the only thing that mattered was that Jeonwoo was indeed that boy. He then offered him a chance to join Tae, claiming that Jeonwoo must have transferred after hearing about him. He assured Jeonwoo that his entire world would change once he joined their group. Displaying his expensive clothing, which cost $500,000, he explained that such things were just money now. He added that if Jeonwoo worked for Tae, he would be able to rig his grades and smoke cigarettes without consequence. As the conversation went on, Jumong mentioned that once people got to know each other, they often ended up going to clubs together and having fun with girls. He then brought up Jeonwoo's father, a well-known politician, and questioned why Jeonwoo wasn't already enjoying that lifestyle with him and Tae. At that moment, Jeonwoo realized that Jumong was nothing more than the class fool, and that there was nothing admirable about the school. Students wandered around freely, smoking cigarettes and gambling as if it were normal, and even used their own separate currency. Jeonwoo took the cigarette from Jumong and told him he wasn't the kind of person to bow down and follow someone else's orders. He threw the cigarette away and told Jumong not to act cool by smoking, making it clear that he wasn't interested in anyone's pretenses. He added that Jumong should look elsewhere if he wanted attention. Jumong grew furious, but managed to keep his emotions in check, remarking instead that Jeonwoo was amusing. He explained that there were always people like him, those who didn't recognize what was best for them, who thought they were tough and made claims their bodies could never back up. Jumong then struck Jeonwoo with a punch, but at that moment, the teacher intervened. The teacher demanded to know what was going on, ordered Jumong not to hit anyone, and instructed him to take his hands off the new student. Jumong retorted that Jeonwoo was simply lucky this time. He warned that Jeonwoo would soon learn that even his father could not protect him, and said it would be interesting to see how long Jeonwoo could maintain his tough guy act. Finally, Jumong asked if Jeonwoo wanted to play a game. Jeonwoo asked if Jumong was referring to the coin game they had played in the classroom, but wondered aloud how he was supposed to play without any coins. Jumong replied that there were always plenty of people eager to cash out their coins, and if Jeonwoo was too afraid to play, he should simply back off. Jeonwoo answered that if he managed to get some coins, he would see no reason not to participate. Hyun, however, doubted that Jeonwoo would actually be able to take on Jumong's challenge. Jumong insisted that it was nothing more than a game and suggested they meet after class. When the final bell rang to signal the end of the school day, word spread quickly among the students about Jumong's challenge to the new transfer student. Many of them felt sorry for Jeonwoo, believing he was bound to get into trouble on his very first day. As Jumong and Jeonwoo faced each other, Jumong made it clear that Jeonwoo had agreed to the game of his own free will and warned him not to back out or make excuses later. Jeonwoo confirmed that he understood. Jumong then placed several coins on the desk and explained the rules of a game called Also. In this game, players placed 5 coins on the desk and then struck the surface with an open hand. A player won if all 5 coins flipped so that they landed facing the same direction. There were, however, two key differences between this version and the usual slap game. Only the special school-issued coins could be used, and the winner of each round could raise the stakes by any multiplier they wished. If the loser failed to pay the increased amount, the unpaid balance would turn into a debt. Jumong warned Gyeonwoo not to think about running away without paying, since a system was in place to ensure that all debts would be settled one way or another. Gyeonwoo remarked that Tae must hold a great deal of power. Jumong agreed, but questioned why Gyeonwoo had brought it up. Was he already afraid of losing? He added that the game was tied to a large corporation, which only heightened the stakes. After finishing his explanation of the rules, Jumong suggested beginning each hand with 100 coins. Gyeonwoo asked if the amount could be multiplied by 5. The others looked confused, and Hyun quickly calculated that it would total around $50, and after 3 rounds, 150. Jumong scoffed, asking if Gyeonwoo was only pretending to be tough and whether he could truly handle such stakes. He bet that Gyeonwoo wouldn't last 5 minutes. Gyeonwoo responded by asking whether Jumong planned to play slowly and drag things out for hours, or if he was actually the one who was scared. Irritated by the remark, Jumong told him to get started. As they decided who would go first, Hyun sensed that something was wrong. It was Gyeonwoo's first day, yet he was challenging a notorious bully without hesitation. Gyeonwoo won the draw and told Jumong to watch carefully, vowing to prove that he was wrong and that money and power were not everything in the world. Jumong explained that even if he lost a round, there would still be a chance to turn the tables in the next. He mentioned that he had raised the stakes to 5 times the original bet and assured Gyeonwoo that he would not back out. Gyeonwoo, however, insisted that since it was his first time playing the game, he should go first. He added that he had never seen anyone play on the desk without using books for air pockets and wondered if it would be too much to ask to use one. Jumong replied that if they played with a book, he could have robbed Gyeonwoo in 5 minutes, so they would stick to the original rules. Gyeonwoo remarked on Jumong's kindness with a touch of sarcasm before slapping the table, though he managed to flip only 4 coins. The onlookers commented that he had hit the table harder than they expected. Jumong teased that Gyeonwoo seemed as though he was trying to smash the desk, which was frightening the audience. As Jumong prepared for his turn, he slapped the table but failed to flip the coin he had aimed for, noting that he had almost managed to get them all and then readied himself for the next round. In the following round, Gyeonwoo slapped the table and successfully turned all the coins, though Jumong dismissed the result as mere luck and demanded the wallets. 3 boys stepped forward, introducing themselves as wallets number 1, 2, and 3, and Jumong instructed each of them to produce 500 coins without delay. While 2 of the boys complied, Jumong turned to the third and asked why he had not paid. The boy explained that his mother had promised to give him his allowance the following week. Jumong questioned whether the boy was admitting that his wallet was empty, then called for a timeout and pressed him to explain the problem, insisting that he did not want to look bad in front of the newcomer. He reminded the boy that he had instructed them always to carry at least 50,000 won in coins. In frustration, Jumong struck the boy with a chair, demanding to know how he could be so irresponsible and still be considered one of Jumong's wallets, declaring it unacceptable that he had no money at all. Gyeonwoo stepped in, blocking Jumong's attempt to hit the boy again, and everyone was shocked by his intervention. Jumong asked what Gyeonwoo thought he was doing and whether he believed himself to be some kind of hero, telling him to drop the act. Gyeonwoo countered by asking what Jumong was doing, pointing out that they were in the middle of a game and that it seemed Jumong had already run out of money. Jumong retorted by questioning whether Gyeonwoo needed glasses and insisted that he was merely teaching them a lesson. As Jumong tried to reclaim the chair, he realized he could not move it, seeing that Gyeonwoo was holding it effortlessly with one hand. The realization made him reconsider Gyeonwoo's strength. Gyeonwoo then took the chair away, told Jumong to sit down and return to the game, and turned to Hyun to ask whether he had any coins that Gyeonwoo could borrow. Hyun confirmed that he had coins and handed one to Gyeonwoo, who thanked him. Jumong told Gyeonwoo to sit, and as he himself took his seat, he declared that it was his turn to raise the stakes, doubling the bet. Gyeonwoo noted that this meant 1,000 coins, which he found rather interesting. When he slapped the bench, it flipped over. prompting Jumong to remark that Geonwoo was not too shabby. Jumong then raised the stakes fourfold. One of the boys commented that the amount Jumong was betting was equal to what he spent at an internet cafe in an entire month, 200,000 won. Jumong slapped the bench again and turned all the coins, declaring that this was what he had been talking about. He said he was finally finding his rhythm and asked Geonwoo whether he wanted to raise the bet. When Geonwoo declined, Jumong demanded to know why. He argued that Geonwoo would not win anything worthwhile by playing it safe, insisting that he himself was just getting started. He claimed that there was no chance for Geonwoo to pull off an upset unless he raised the bet immediately, and added that even if Geonwoo somehow managed to win a round, he would not hesitate to raise the stakes tenfold. The others were shocked, realizing that 500,000 won was an enormous amount to wager, and that one of them could end up broke in an instant. Hyun felt frustrated but powerless in the situation. Geonwoo remarked that the more he thought about it, the less sense it made. Still, he continued playing along with Jumong, thinking there might be some truth to all the talk about leaders and such. He found it difficult to understand why someone like Tai would even bother associating with a small fry like Jumong. Geonwoo then suggested changing the stakes, catching Jumong and the others off guard, and leaving them to wonder why he wanted such a change. The atmosphere suddenly became more serious for him. Jumong told Geonwoo not to joke around and insisted that changing the rules in the middle of the game was not allowed. Geonwoo explained that he had realized he did not have much cash with him. If Jumong won, he would not be able to pay and would simply fall into debt, which would remain the same. However, if Geonwoo won, he would not take Jumong's money. Instead, he would claim the right to land one clean hit. Jumong was puzzled by the proposal, so Geonwoo clarified that regardless of the stakes Jumong set, whether he won or lost, all he wanted was one clean hit. He asked Jumong for his opinion on the offer. Jumong questioned whether Geonwoo was serious, whether he would truly prefer to strike him rather than take his money. He felt confident that, no matter how high the stakes rose, he would not lose, and even if he did, he had nothing to lose. What Geonwoo could not possibly have known was that Jumong had rigged the entire game, secretly controlling the table with a remote. Jumong thought it impossible for Geonwoo to have discovered the trick after just 10 minutes of playing for the first time. Who could have imagined that the table had been altered with magnets designed to interfere with the coins? Growing impatient, Geonwoo asked what the holdup was and urged Jumong to make a decision. He noted the other boys' nervous glances and questioned whether he was afraid. Geonwoo added that if Jumong did not want to accept the offer, they could end the game right there and let him lose. Jumong found the remark infuriating. To him, it sounded as if Geonwoo were only talking that way because he was about to lose and wanted an excuse to escape. Determined not to let Geonwoo get away so easily, Jumong resolved that even if accused of rigging the game, he would feign ignorance. As long as Geonwoo never saw the remote, the situation would go no further. If Jumong managed to hold his ground, it would finally earn him access to Tai's inner circle. Jumong accepted the deal and declared that he was raising the stakes 100-fold. The others were stunned, realizing that it meant 5 million won. As he slapped the table, he warned Geonwoo that he had brought this upon himself and should be ready to face the consequences. When Jumong struck the table again, only a single coin flipped over, leaving the group astonished. Geonwoo remarked that from the moment Jumong had explained the rules, he had suspected something was wrong. Jumong, he said, was not as clever as he believed himself to be. The rule allowing the loser to raise the stakes as high as they could afford seemed designed to give the illusion of a chance to recover, but in reality, if one player kept winning, the loser's pride would drive them to raise the stakes again and again until they went broke. A clear scam. What made the game even more suspicious was the insistence on slapping a bare table without books. Anyone with common sense would have found that odd. Geonwoo explained that when he had struck the table hard during the first round, he noticed it felt thicker than usual. While Jumong had been putting on his show with the chair, he had taken a closer look and discovered a thick slab of metal hidden between the top of the desk and the drawer. Hyun wondered aloud if everything had been rigged from the start. Annoyed by Gyeonwoo's constant interruptions, Jumong snapped back, asking what the point was and why he should care about whoever had originally built the desk. He demanded to know what Gyeonwoo expected him to do about it. At that moment, Gyeonwoo tossed 2 screws at him, explaining that they were large enough that they should have come loose with a real coin. Jumong was stunned, and the others were puzzled by what Gyeonwoo was implying. Gyeonwoo had loosened the screws beneath the desk, rendering the magnetic panel useless. When he slapped the bench, all the coins flipped at once, shattering the bench and leaving everyone in shock. It was undeniable that Jumong had lost the round. Hyun thought that Gyeonwoo had truly defeated him. Despite Jumong's intimidating reputation and the fact that neither student nor teacher had ever been able to challenge him, Gyeonwoo had managed to win fairly, even against Jumong's rigged setup. Jumong, astonished, wondered how Gyeonwoo had beaten him with a single slap and regretted allowing the stakes to be raised 100-fold. Gyeonwoo then asked whether Jumong was ready to pay his prize and immediately punched him. The following day at school, the students buzzed with news that Jumong had been removed as leader after the game and that Gyeonwoo had taken his place. When someone asked whether it could really be true, given that Gyeonwoo had been there for only 1 day, he entered the classroom and announced that he was now the class leader. He added that his one condition was that gambling would no longer be permitted in their class from that day forward. The scene recalled the moment when Gyeonwoo had punched Jumong, sending him staggering backward. Gyeonwoo had told him that it was not the right time to challenge him and added that, if he were in Jumong's place, he would be thinking about how to explain the trick with the desk to everyone he had deceived. One boy wondered what the 2 of them had been talking about, while a girl suggested checking the desk. The others soon discovered something inside the drawer that resembled a machine. A student admitted that he had once believed Jumong was a master of slaps, and that was why he always played on the table. But now they understood it had all been rigged. The crowd demanded that Jumong return the money they had lost because of his cheating. Later, as Hyun walked with Gyeonwoo, he apologized, saying he regretted not being able to help more. He explained that he had hoped for a change in the situation, but had felt powerless when the time came. Gyeonwoo replied that it was far worse to ask a victim, someone who had already suffered more than their fair share, why they had not done more to protect themselves. He assured Hyun that he completely understood and reminded him that it was not wrong to simply try to survive when things became difficult. He encouraged Hyun to wait for his chance to make those boys pay. Grateful for the support, Hyun thanked him. Gyeonwoo then asked whom he needed to speak to in Class 8. Hyun explained that rigged games and scams were typically overseen by the leaders, though such cases were rare. When a leader caused trouble, it was usually addressed by one of the 7 members of Tai's group, specifically a girl named Yuri. Hyun led Gyeonwoo to the classroom where Yuri was present and introduced them. Gyeonwoo thanked him, but Hyun cautioned him to be careful. Everyone in Tai's group carried an elitist attitude and looked down on others, which would make it difficult for Gyeonwoo to deal with them. Gyeonwoo remarked that there should not be any hierarchy among classmates. That night, Jumong was in a group chat where the others were discussing Gyeonwoo. He complained that Gyeonwoo was beginning to seriously irritate him and questioned why, on his very first day, Gyeonwoo was already telling everyone what to do. Choi responded that Gyeonwoo was completely out of line and asked Jumong if he had heard anything from Tai. Jumong denied it, saying that Tai was not even reading his messages. Choi noted that Tai seemed to be backing away from him. Jumong reassured Choi that he was fine and pointed out that no one had mentioned the rigged game yet. He doubted Gyeonwoo would succeed in reporting him to Tai, considering Gyeonwoo was nothing more than the son of a discharged congressman. Jumong decided that this was his chance to deal with Gyeonwoo before he could reach Tae. He felt confident that once they broke both of Gyeonwoo's legs, he would change his tune. Before Tae had transferred there, their school had been the toughest, and no one had dared challenge them in a fight, not even schools as far away as Incheon. With a group of boys, Jumong headed to the basketball court where Gyeonwoo was already waiting. Gyeonwoo remarked that Jumong was right on time and seemed eager to introduce him to his friends. Jumong agreed and bet that Gyeonwoo would remember them for a long time. Gyeonwoo asked whether Jumong thought it was nice and hinted that he had something fun planned for the evening. Jumong, still confused, demanded to know what he meant. Convinced that Gyeonwoo would not walk out alive that night, he taunted him for not even having Tai's support and told him to stop acting tough. Humiliated in front of many people before, Jumong felt he could not allow Jaeonwoo to get away with it. Jaeonwoo then approached him, preparing to punch. He made it clear that he had no intention of letting Jumong off with just a single hit. He warned him to remember his words, that anyone who lost to him would have to pay up, and whatever they owed would only add to their hospital bills once he was finished with them. Declaring it was time to deal with the arrogant fool, Jaeonwoo closed in. Meanwhile, Yuri hid behind a wall, intrigued by what Jaeonwoo claimed he had in store. Curious enough to have shown up, she now wondered if he had transferred for a specific reason. Tae had already warned her not to interfere with Jaeonwoo, reminding her that he was the son of a disreputable congressman. The warning puzzled her, and she resolved to keep a close eye on him. When she checked the texts Tae had sent her, her curiosity and concern only deepened. In the battle, Tae had defeated everyone, and Yuri arrived in the middle of it, expressing surprise. She admitted that she had not believed it at first, but Jaeonwoo had truly handled everything on his own. She acknowledged that Jumong and his crew were not easy opponents. Jaeonwoo mentioned that he had initially thought they would be a joke, but he was impressed by how well they could endure a beating. Wiping the blood from his mouth, he expressed concern that he might have exceeded his limit in dealing with them and decided to leave the remaining matters to Yuri. Yuri, visibly annoyed, told Jaeonwoo that she was not his personal assistant. Jumong was stunned to learn that they had all been defeated by a single person and asked Yuri if she was assisting Jaeonwoo. She explained that she had not wanted to come but felt compelled to intervene because of Jumong's desk trick. She then tossed a letter toward Jumong, informing him that he was being expelled. She added that, for his information, the reason for his expulsion had already been prepared. She explained that they had chosen to overlook all the extortion, assaults, and other offenses he had committed during his time at the school, as they did not want to tarnish its reputation. He could still attend school for 2 weeks after signing the letter, which meant he might consider himself fortunate. Jumong protested, telling her not to joke around and demanding to know the reason for his expulsion. He argued that he had been the one assaulted and questioned why he should have to drop out. He even suggested the possibility of suing Jaeonwoo. Yuri told him to be quiet and to sign the letter, reminding him that he had no say in the matter and that his foolish antics had embarrassed not only her but Tae as well. She informed him about an account opened on April 27th at Songmyung Bank in his mother's name, which belonged to him, holding 4,183,281, money she knew had come from the scam. She instructed him to submit the signed letter by the next morning and emphasized that they were doing him a favor by not having the principal expel him outright. After that, Yuri walked with Jaeonwoo and asked if he needed anything else from her. He agreed and thanked her. She mentioned that the situation had been unusual, which was why she had intervened, but under normal circumstances, Hyung-soo from Class 9 handled the rigged games and scams. She advised him to speak with Hyung-soo in the future. Jaeonwoo responded that the situation seemed more systematic than he had expected, with different people responsible for various tasks, and he wondered whether Tae was trying to turn the school into a casino. Yuri then inquired about the reason for his transfer, but Jaeonwoo did not reply, making her suspect that he was intentionally avoiding the topic. He admitted that he did not know what to say and barely knew anyone at the school. Yuri told him not to play dumb, noting that his father was Congressman Dan and had faced accusations, which had forced Jaeonwoo to leave his STEM school. She suspected that he was aware of the rumors that Songmyung Group had reported his father and inferred that it was not unreasonable to think that someone like him might have transferred seeking revenge against Tae. She added that she had also done some background research on him that day. Later, Yuri arrived in the classroom and asked everyone to take their seats. The students were surprised to see her and wondered what a member of Tae was doing in their class, speculating whether she and Jaeonwoo already knew each other. Shocked, Hyun took his seat as well. Yuri then announced that Jaeonwoo would be the new class leader. The students murmured in confusion, noting that he had only been there for 2 days and questioning what was happening. They also wondered whether it was true that Jumong had dropped out. Yuri clarified that, from that day forward, Jaeonwoo would handle all class responsibilities and instructed anyone who was absent to inform her. She also warned that if she discovered anyone responsible for the magnetic table incident again, she would track them down and teach them a lesson, adding that this was all she had to say. As Yuri was leaving, she overheard Gaeonwoo telling the students that it was ridiculous for Tai to have given him the authority to manage the class. He questioned how his role differed from that of a class president, noting that Hyun was the president of Yebor class and should rightfully represent the class. He explained that from now on, he would listen to Hyun, support him to the best of his abilities, and respect his prerogative. He also declared that gambling would no longer be allowed in their class, which left the students confused. Jeonwoo continued by stating that while he would not interfere with other classes, gambling would be strictly prohibited in his own. He added that anyone unhappy with this decision would have to challenge him for the role of class leader. He emphasized that he was willing to fight to uphold this stance, whether it concerned gambling or any other matter. Angrily, Yuri closed the door behind her as she left, remarking that Jeonwoo could do whatever he wanted, but she would make sure he understood the consequences of his actions. The scene then shifted to the garbage area, where a boy was on the phone. He complained that Yuri did not know what she was talking about and described Ju Mong as insignificant. He mentioned that Jeonwoo had only become class leader because of a desk that had been made for him and suggested that it would be rude to betray the boy. He questioned why they would even consider quitting after all the money they had earned from their class and assured the others on the call that once they got rid of Gaeonwoo, everything would be theirs. He also promised to devise a plan that would guarantee their victory. The boy assured Wind that they could keep all the money they had earned from the deal, noting that it was not a bad offer. Wind wondered who the boy was, questioning why he was suddenly calling with such nonsense, and why he had not taken the opportunity himself if it was so certain. The boy replied that he had not expected Wind to react that way. He explained that he had called because he believed Wind was the right person for the job and wanted to know if he was interested in earning some cash. He mentioned that times had become difficult since Buddha had started interfering and said he would give Wind some time to consider the offer, expecting a positive response. Angry, Wind questioned the man's identity. At school, Gaeonwoo was writing something when he heard a tapping sound. Looking around, he noticed students hiding their phones under their desks while playing games. He asked why they were hiding their phones, especially since no teacher was present. Hyun explained that they did not want Jeonwoo to notice and added that, aside from gambling at school, there were also online games available, such as the notorious snail racing game. He described the online betting game, which involved betting on one of 3 snails, with players winning or losing based on the outcome of the race. It had become popular because it was easy to play. Jeonwoo wondered if this was the online game everyone was so engrossed in, and realized that even if he tried to ban it, he would struggle to crack down on every individual player. He found the situation quite fascinating. He stood up and remarked that, although it was his first time attending school, he could not understand why everyone was so obsessed with gambling. Hyun guessed that people saw it as an easier way to make money compared to studying for a degree. He then asked Jeonwoo to clarify whether he truly meant it was his first time going to school. When Hyun inquired about elementary and middle school, Jeonwoo replied that he had not attended either. Just then, a student opened the door and informed Jeonwoo that the dean wanted to see him in the teacher's lounge on the 1st floor. Jeonwoo was puzzled about who the dean might be. Hyun explained that the dean was responsible for student affairs and was notorious for being a strict enforcer of school rules. He added that the dean had supported Tae's efforts to combat the gambling culture at the school. Hyun asked Jeonwoo whether he thought the dean wanted to speak to him because he had banned gambling in their class. Jeonwoo shrugged, saying it was hard to say. In any case, even if everyone was still gambling on their phones, it was quieter than the previous day, and the school felt more like a real school. Hyun agreed and continued with his tasks. As Hyun was working, a boy approached and punched him, asking if he was happy now that he had someone to talk to. The boy criticized Hyun for not addressing the real issue, how they had ended up in a situation where they had to hide their games in the first place. The scene then shifted to the boys' washroom, where Palm was using his phone and wondering what Jeonwoo meant by banning gambling, especially since he was a new student. Other boys were present, and one of them mentioned that as soon as Jeonwoo had replaced Ju Mong, he had banned gambling in their class, which had caused Yuri to leave in a rage. Elvis suggested that they wait and discuss their next steps before confronting Jeonwoo and decide how to handle the problem they were facing, Palm wondered what plan would ensure their victory, recalling the message on his phone, urging them to take action against the new student. A boy arrived and remarked that the offer was not bad, noting that Jumong had earned 700,000 won just from his slap scams alone. He reasoned that if they could make some money while taking down the new student, they had nothing to lose. They believed it would be easy, and once the scam was exposed, the boy kicked everyone, including Zhang, out. Gaeonwoo was walking down the corridor, determined to restore the school's reputation within a year, putting everything on the line. Yuri and two other girls were walking in the same direction. One of the girls complimented Yuri's lip color and asked if it was a particular brand, while the second girl inquired as well. Yuri explained that her brother had bought it for her and that she would ask him about it later. When she noticed Gaeonwoo, she remarked that it seemed like he had finally had some sense knocked into him and that it suited him. She wasn't sure how much he could get away with outside of school, but now that he was there, he needed to learn to follow the rules and stay out of their way. As they put some distance between themselves and Gaeonwoo, he admitted that he was a bit disappointed. It seemed that snitching to the dean was all that had happened, and he guessed that Tai and his circle weren't as impressive as they appeared. Yuri replied that there was no need to make a big deal out of someone like Gaeonwoo. Then another girl asked about the new student. As Gaeonwoo continued walking, Hyun suddenly dropped out of a call. The boy who had been with him in class also emerged and declared that it was confession time. He confessed that he had been the one to tell Gaeonwoo what to do and was now trying to be a model student by making sure everyone knew. Hyun said that he had already told the boy everything he knew and asked what more the boy wanted from him. The boy explained that he had taken out a loan to buy coins for gambling and was now stuck playing trivial games on his phone because of Hyun. Gaeonwoo then asked the boy what he was doing there, and when the boy did not respond, Gaeonwoo repeated the question. Angrily, the boy retorted that the school allowed them to exchange cash for coins to gamble, and questioned why Gaeonwoo had the authority to decide whether others could play or not. Gaeonwoo replied that the boy had been following his instructions and that he had made his position clear. He added that if the boy was unhappy with the way he was running things, he could challenge him for his position. The boy, still fuming, wondered if anyone who was unhappy could challenge him, and questioned what would happen if the whole class was dissatisfied with Gaeonwoo. Gaeonwoo responded that he did not care what games they chose, or how many were dissatisfied. Once a decision had been made, they should give it their best effort. 2 days later, a boy approached Gaeonwoo and informed him that he had selected a game as promised, and would be representing their class in a one-on-one match. Gaeonwoo asked if the boy was truly representing the class, to which the boy confirmed and then inquired about the game. The boy explained that the game was called Slime Race and asked if Gaeonwoo had heard of it. He described it as a game on the dark web with very simple rules. Players had to predict which of the slimes, red, blue, or green, would finish first. There were various ways to place bets, such as predicting which slime would come in first or selecting the order of the top 3 finishers, and betting on these outcomes could result in larger payouts. When Gaeonwoo arrived at the site, he remarked on how surprising it was that the game had not been shut down. He then asked why the boy had moved to the front of the class. The boy replied that he would explain soon and questioned why Gaeonwoo had not purchased any tokens for the race in the meantime. He added that this time they were allowing others to join as spectators and assured Gaeonwoo that their presence would not affect the match. The boy had moved to the front of the class to ensure that everyone was aware of what was happening and emphasized that it was important for Gaeonwoo to be taught a lesson in front of everyone for it to have any real impact. Gaeonwoo remarked that it seemed the boy had put a lot of thought into the setup. As they prepared, the boy explained that the rules for their matchup were simple. After 10 rounds, whoever had won the most tokens would be declared the winner. To ensure fairness and transparency, they would select a judge to track their picks and token amounts. Since the boy did not want to be accused of cheating, he suggested choosing a fair judge and then called Hyun to take on the role. Hesitant at first, Hyun eventually agreed after the boy insisted. At the start, Gaeonwoo had 1,120,000 tokens in total, while the boy possessed 5,900,000 tokens. Both presented their picks and wagered their tokens. Hyun noted that Gaeonwoo had bet on the blue slime to win first, wagering 100,000 tokens. The boy, on the other hand, had placed bets on the first, second, and third places with his entire 9 million tokens. The boy taunted Gaeonwoo, claiming that word had it Jianwu was already in trouble with the dean and, on top of that, in bad standing with Tae and his group. He warned that if Jianwu lost, he would have to give up his position as class leader, leaving him with nothing but trouble. Jianwu estimated that it would take roughly a year to deal with Tae and thought his chances of succeeding were less than 10%. He wondered if this was what gambling felt like. Finally, the first game began. Hyun thought that his only task was to monitor how well each participant was performing and how much Jung had wagered. He calculated that if his guess was correct, Jung would be at the minimum if he won 10,000 won each round. Given the difference in funds, even if Jung bet only 10,000 won per round, he would still end up with 8 million won. On the other hand, for Jianwu to win, he would need to quintuple his money by betting 100,000 won on blue finishing first, while Jung would need to place bets on the 6-time payout. As the race progressed, it became clear that the Great was the front runner, though other students commented that Red seemed to be gaining a second wind. Hyun inferred that Jung had bet on all 3 slimes. When the results showed Red winning, Jung realized it was over, as he collected 30,000 won from the first round alone. He recalled the past when he had won only 1 million won, reflecting on how he had to work hard at a low-paying part-time job for a month to earn that amount. In contrast, he had now earned it in just 2 hours through gambling. Later, he had gotten involved in Jumong's rigged games, which had earned him and the others 100,000 won a day. However, Jung had eventually started losing in other games, ultimately losing all of his money, including the 800,000 won his mother had given him. Desperate to recover his losses, he had tried to return to where he started, but that would have been possible only if he had not been caught by Jumong. When Jung was confronted by a man, he was questioned about the tests and whether he thought they were bullying him or had some other motive. The man asked only a few questions, and Jung pleaded for a loan, assuring them that he would repay it quickly. They agreed to lend him 3 million won, but they never heard back from him. Crying, Jung explained that he had provided his parents' account information and IDs, and had even opened 2 savings accounts at the bank. The boy who had lent him the money demanded repayment, pointing out that each account was worth only 500,000 won and questioning how Jung intended to repay the remaining debt. Jung protested that he had been told earlier that it would be sufficient to cover the debt, but the boy insisted it was not enough and warned him that he would need to involve the police. The boy laughed, questioning whether Jung truly thought they were playing games with him. He told Jung to consider the situation carefully, explaining that if they were afraid of some corporation, they would not be in their line of work. He mocked Jung's plan to report them to the police, claiming that even if he were caught, Jung's debt would continue to accumulate as he was determined to collect what he was owed. The boy warned Jung that his entire family, from his parents living in the YB apartment to his grandmother down south, as well as all his friends, would eventually learn about his debt. He vowed that he would track Jung down for the rest of his miserable life. Jung had reluctantly agreed to comply, but the man had inflicted so much pain on him that he had been brought to tears. He had apologized, promising to repay the man, who had then decided to let him go that time. The man had asked how Jung planned to repay him, noting that the interest rate was 20% due by the 10th. Jung, having no money to his name, had wondered how the man expected him to repay such a substantial sum. The man had lent him a total of 10 million, but after deducting the first interest payment, the debt had been reduced to 9 million, meaning all Jung had to do was win double that amount to settle it. The next day at school, Jung had recalled the man's words, who had insisted that he didn't care what game Jung chose or how many times he played. Once Jung made a decision, he should take his best shot. When Jung had approached a boy about a game, the boy had told him he could do whatever he wanted and had shown little concern since Jung had been the one to pick a fight with the new kid in the first place. A girl had warned Jung about Jumong, questioning whether he really thought they could defeat him and cautioning that if they ended up losing, Jung would bear the blame. Angered, Jung had stormed out of his classroom, thinking that they were all conspiring against the new kid and now expected him to shoulder the responsibility alone. A boy had watched Young with keen interest, thinking that things were becoming increasingly intriguing. He had planned to encourage Buddha's posse to take action, unaware that Young would actually step up to the challenge. Young had realized that all he had was 9 million, and that he needed to break even somehow. Playing at school wasn't an option since no one there gambled at such high stakes. He had thought he could rally the rest of the class to gang up on Gaeonwoo and pay off his debt that way, but he had been left to face the challenge alone as everyone else had gotten cold feet. All he had wanted was some extra spending money, and he couldn't understand why it had to turn out like this. Just then, he had received a text that he had initially dismissed as spam, feeling stressed about it. But when he had checked, he had seen that it was from someone asking if he wanted to earn some cash. Young had wondered who this person was. The sender had continued that if Young followed their instructions, he would earn plenty of money. They had then shared leaked pictures of the slime game, making Young feel that this could be the real deal. Even though he hadn't known who was behind it, the only condition had been to kick Jianwoo in front of everyone, and he had been confident he could win that. Young had then turned to Hyun, asking what had been holding him up and why he hadn't announced the winners yet. Hyun had replied that Gaeonwoo had won the first round. Young had urged him to speak louder, noting that no one could hear him when he spoke so quietly, and had insisted that he stop muttering and say it loud and clear. Hyun had agreed and had reiterated that the winner of the first round was Jeonwoo. Young had shouted that he still couldn't hear him. Frustrated, he had confronted Hyun, saying that he had already asked him to speak louder and had questioned whether Hyun had even heard him. He had thought it was no wonder no one respected Hyun, neither as class president nor as a person. Then Hyun had shouted loudly, announcing that Gaeonwoo was down 100,000 won, bringing his total to 2 million tokens. Young had won, having picked the first, second, and third places, and had been up 29. 5 million tokens, totaling 34. 5 million. The others had been shocked, wondering if they had heard correctly or if the amount was truly that substantial. Yeon had confirmed that it had indeed been correct. Jeonwoo had been intrigued and had wondered what kind of trick Young had up his sleeve when he had challenged him to a one-on-one match. However, he had guessed there was nothing special and that Young had no hidden plans. Young had reminded them all that he had won the game and had asked if everyone had seen him win 30 million tokens, asserting that even if they had each bet just 10,000 won per round, he would still come out on top. He had insisted that Gaeonwoo didn't stand a chance. Jeonwoo had referred to Young as their leader, but had warned that it wouldn't last long. He had then asked the others if they wanted to make some money, offering to invite them all to a group chat for their class and promising that he would make everyone rich. Jeonwoo had also wondered if Young had someone on the inside who had leaked the outcomes to him, realizing that he needed to find that person quickly. Otherwise, he would lose everything. The scene had shifted to a night 4 years later, when Gaeonwoo had stepped out of his house. Just then, his father had called out to him from the first floor, asking where he was going in the middle of the night. Jeonwoo had turned to look at him. His father had noticed Jeonwoo's expression and had asked if he was planning to run away, urging him to come back inside so they could talk over a warm meal. Jeonwoo had bowed respectfully to his father, expressing his gratitude. His father had then mentioned that Jeonwoo was too young to be living on his own, reminding him that things wouldn't always go his way, and suggesting that if Jeonwoo was determined to be independent, he could help him find an apartment. Jeonwoo had replied that he didn't want to burden his father or his brothers, especially since he was an illegitimate child. He had thrown everything in his room into a bag, saying that all they had to do was toss out his trophies from his father's office. His father had responded that it was not something Gaeonwoo should concern himself with, but he had urged him to wait. However, Gaeonwoo had felt he had already enjoyed enough happiness for a lifetime, and had believed that the least he could do was to avoid being a burden to his father. The scene had then transitioned back to the time when Young had just won the game. He had asked the others if they had seen him win 30 million tokens and had invited them to join him if they wanted to win as well. A girl in the crowd had wondered if that had been for real. Another girl had asked if he meant that they could play to win as well. A boy had questioned whether Young had really won 30 million tokens, and just then, he had received the invitation. Another boy had suggested checking the results. One boy had asked the others if they were in the group chat, pointing out that those were the leaked pics. The main sender, a different boy, had thought about how he had asked Young to kick Jeonwoo in front of everyone and had realized that if Young made it obvious that he had the game results, he was going to call him out. Feeling frustrated, he had decided to give up on the match. He had noticed that Jeonwoo was still sitting there and had wondered why he hadn't moved. It had seemed that Young had never planned on winning fair and square against Jeonwoo, and now that everyone knew it was rigged, Jeonwoo should have said something soon. Even if he had won 100 times over, there had been no chance he would win now, and he knew that as well. So he had wondered why Jeonwoo hadn't called it a foul. As Jeonwoo had placed another bet, the boy had pondered why he was still playing. Did he really intend to keep going? Or did he have some secret plan? It had appeared that Jeonwoo was digging his own grave. A few people had questioned why Jeonwoo wasn't doing anything about the situation, but it had seemed there was no way he would leave. Then the second game, the 153rd round of the race, had begun. One boy had placed a bet of 20,000 won, while another had remarked that he just needed to visit that site. The main boy had thought that as long as that miserable prick Jeonwoo was in school, he would never quit. Calling Jeonwoo out would have meant the end for him, and the boy had been certain he had heard the rumors, especially the one about what Jeonwoo had said while the dean had been beating him about betting everything. He had claimed he could clean up the school within a year, and the boy had been delighted by that thought. He had recalled how he had seen plenty of guys like Jeonwoo while hanging around with Ju Mongung and the Pridefield group. Those who had tried to go against the rules to maintain their honor had often ended up ruining their lives. The most powerful person in the school, after Taekyong and the principal, had been the desk, and Neo had made his grand declaration to the dean. He had known there was no turning back now. How could he have gone back on his word when he was still clinging to his sense of pride? As the race had ended, a boy had exclaimed that it had really worked, and he had gotten first, second, and third places right. Another boy had asked how much he had won. The first boy had replied that it had been 60,000 won multiplied by 6. A third boy had mentioned that he had only bet 5,000 won on that, and should have wagered at least 50,000 won. Young had contemplated the boy who had provided him with the game results. He had realized that simply kicking Jeonwoo in front of others wouldn't be enough. He had felt a gloomy determination to ensure that Jeonwoo never showed his face around there again. The news had quickly spread among the other students, and people couldn't keep it a secret. They had excitedly shared the information, and soon a boy had approached another, urging him to check it out. He had claimed to have heard that something big was happening in Class 5. As he had relayed that there were leaks, everyone had rushed over, eager to find out more, convinced that if they got in, they could become rich as well. Young had thought about how Jeonwoo had been blind to the situation, running away with his tail between his legs in front of the entire school, while he himself had come away unscathed. He had then asked Hyun to do his job. Hyun had agreed and had announced that Jeonwoo had bet on the red team to win first place, but was now down 10,000 tokens, leaving him with a total of 1 million. Meanwhile, Young had placed bets on all 3 places, earning 3 million and bringing his total to 37. 5 million. As others had heard this, they had been shocked. They had crowded around Young, asking if it had really been 37. 5 million, and begging him to let them in on it as well. Jeonwoo had stood up to leave for the washroom. As he had exited the classroom, Hyun had called out to him, urging him to call it off. Both Jeonwoo and Hyun had understood that Young knew the results of all 10 rounds, and that it had been blatant fraud. Jeonwoo had agreed, acknowledging that normally, calling him out for cheating had been exactly what he should do. Hyun had asked what Jeonwoo had meant by normally, and had expressed his frustration, saying he didn't have time for that. He had wondered why Jeonwoo had been playing along with such a pointless game if he had believed he wouldn't win. Jeonwoo had replied that it had been the only sure way to catch Young. He had explained that when the odds had been in his favor, when his game plan had seemed foolproof, and when everyone had been absolutely certain he couldn't lose, if he had managed to win that kind of game, no one else would challenge his authority by gambling. Hyun had asked for clarification on what that had meant. Jeonwoo had reassured him not to worry, and had added that if his calculations had been correct, by the time they had reached the 8th round, he would have already won. Hyun asked Jeonwoo if he really meant that he would win by the 8th round, and whether he was serious. He reminded Gyeonwoo that Young already knew the results of all the games and had over 30 times more money than Gyeonwoo, so he wondered how Gyeonwoo could possibly win against that. Gyeonwoo replied that he knew and guessed that Young had the race results for all 10 rounds. He mentioned that he had seen Young turning in bed, staring at his phone while writing the results down. Hyun then asked why Gyeonwoo wanted to play such a risky game. Gyeonwoo stepped closer, prompting Hyun to ask what he had transferred there. Gyeonwoo invited him to come along for a while. When they reached the restroom, Gyeonwoo said that the person he wanted to meet hadn't arrived yet, though he should have by now. Hyun asked if he was going to meet someone there. Gyeonwoo explained that he hadn't mentioned something very interesting. There was a student people called Buddha who had been suspended after hitting a teacher in the head with an ashtray. Hyun asked if he was referring to Seojai-ji and recalled that Seojai had returned from his suspension. He remembered that last year Taekyung had tried to give Seojai a leadership position, but Seojai had simply flipped over a desk in response. Hyun then asked Gyeonwoo if he knew Seojai. Gyeonwoo agreed, saying that although he might not have gone to the school, he still got around. Hyun asked why they were looking for Seojai in the bathroom when he was in class 7. Gyeonwoo replied that he shouldn't worry about it, and that the fewer people who knew about his conversation with Buddha, the better. He explained that it was the secret to winning the match, and that it didn't matter if Buddha was the same one Gyeonwoo knew. Gyeonwoo was confident that Buddha would be in the bathroom sometime in the next few rounds. As the race continued, students cheered for their favorites, and one boy even wagered his entire month's allowance, claiming that if he won, he would receive a 6-fold payout. A girl added that she had gone all in for the first, second, and third places based on the leaked pictures she had seen. They watched as blue took first place, and red came in second. One boy exclaimed that he had accurately predicted all 3 top positions. It was the 154th round, and the final results for the third race were in. Students referred to Young as their god and prayed to him to make them rich. Hyun noticed that Gyeonwoo had bet on red to come in first and was down 10,000 tokens, totaling 1 million. Young, on the other hand, had bets on first, second, and third place and was up 9 million, bringing his total to 46, 5 million. Students even called Young the king. Young mentioned that those who were betting were truly enjoying themselves. He thought about what he should buy after the match ended. First, he wanted something to flaunt, like limited edition sneakers that would impress even Taekyung and his family. Before that, he planned to settle his debts and considered giving an extra 500,000 won to that man, telling him to use it for a haircut. He thought about buying a watch and decided that since he could afford it, he wouldn't care about the price and would get the most expensive one available. After that, he imagined buying a motorcycle worth around 20 million won, preferably the newest model. He also planned to give some money to his mother, and even after all these expenses, he would still have close to 10 million won left. He felt ecstatic and could hardly contain his excitement. Meanwhile, he wondered what Gyeonwoo was thinking, betting 10,000 won each round while losing every time. It seemed too late for Gyeonwoo to change his luck, and no matter what stunts he pulled, he would never be like Young. Suddenly, they heard a group of boys coming through, clearing a path by pushing others aside and shouting for everyone to get out of the way. The students speculated about what was happening with the crowd and who the boy might be. One guess was that it could be Buddha, who certainly had the audacity to run around like that right after returning from suspension. Someone wondered what Buddha had eaten at that time, and it was mentioned that he had asked for white kimchi. Gyeonwoo stood up and pointed out that Buddha was there. Hyun asked what that meant, and Gyeonwoo replied that he was gloomy in the bathroom. As Gyeonwoo left, Hyun thought that from now on he would feel gloomy listening to their class president and would do his best to support him. That was his prerogative. He didn't understand why Gyeonwoo was so obsessed with winning the match, but it was clear that he was trying to help Hyun. Hyun had no clue about Gyeonwoo's plan, but he wondered if, should he lose for any reason and get into trouble, he could stand up for Gyeonwoo or do anything to help him. As Buddha arrived at the restroom with his 2 followers, Win told him that if he kept getting an upset stomach, he should see a doctor or stop eating. Wind admitted that he could still hear the sound of Buddha haunting his dreams at night and wondered who had suffered from eating the white kimchi. At that moment, Gyeonwoo was washing his hands. Wind noticed him and asked if he was new there, commenting that he hadn't seen him use the restroom before. Gyeonwoo replied that nothing had changed. Students were still rushing to the bathroom at that time of day. He then asked what they were doing there. Palm Tree, Buddha's second follower, asked if Jeonwoo was the new kid who had beaten Ju Mongeng. Jeonwoo turned, remarked that it had been a while, and asked Palm Tree how he had been. He added that he didn't think he knew the one with the mustache. Wind then asked Palm Tree if he recognized that boy. Palm Tree replied that they had seen him all the time back in middle school and that he was the one who had brought down the BK Alliance. Suddenly, Buddha broke down the bathroom door, announcing that he had come to see who was there. Meanwhile, in the classroom, Hyun was sitting and staring at his tablet. Young placed his phone on the desk and asked if Hyun didn't get bored being their judge, noting that everyone else in the class was making cash. He asked if Hyun didn't even want to take a taste of it. Young mentioned that most of the top students were satisfied with a little pocket money, but he wanted to make a special deal with Hyun. He would give him 30% of his earnings, and in return, Hyun just had to reveal what Jeonwoo had planned. Young asked how the deal sounded. After some time, Jinwoo arrived, and Young asked why he was so late, joking that he had thought Jinwoo might chicken out and wet his pants. Jeonwoo handed a note to Hyun, saying that he wouldn't have come back if he hadn't. He mentioned that it contained his bet for that round. Trembling, Hyun took the note just as the race started. In his first year of middle school, Seojai, also known as Buddha, gained a reputation after single-handedly defeating a group of high school bullies who had been harassing one of his classmates. He earned the nickname Buddha from those around him as an attempt to temper his fiery nature, especially after he had once sent an upperclassman flying with a single strike. Out of the entire country, only 3 others in his age group could stand against him, and anyone who knew him understood why. Buddha asked Jeonwoo to end his misery once and for all. Jeonwoo responded that it was good to see him, though he looked completely worn out. Palm Tree remarked that ever since middle school, Jeonwoo and Buddha had fought whenever they had the chance, and Jeonwoo was the only one who could truly stand toe-to-toe with him. Still, Palm Tree believed that Jeonwoo was in over his head this time, especially after that ridiculous haircut. Wind wondered what was happening, realizing that the new kid he intended to fight personally not only knew Buddha but was also his rival. Jeonwoo told Buddha that he still brought his entire gang to the bathroom with him and asked if he didn't think other people also needed to use it. Buddha told him to quit yapping and asked why Jeonwoo had come to his school, reminding him that words had never been necessary between them anyway. A boy urged Buddha to stop and come down, warning that he would only get himself into trouble again. Buddha snapped at him to be quiet, claiming that Jeonwoo always acted as though he were superior. He added that if he had to listen to Jeonwoo speak for more than 30 seconds, it would make him sick to his stomach. Convinced that the simplest solution was to beat Jeonwoo, Buddha prepared to strike. Before the punch could land, Jeonwoo quickly suggested that they take down Taekyung together. Buddha halted and asked what he meant by that. Jeonwoo explained that Buddha was currently the only one siding with Taekyung, and that someone had rigged a game to target him using one of their classmates. If Buddha joined him, they could turn the tables on their enemies. Wind interjected, saying that it wasn't a good idea and urging them to wait. Buddha turned toward him and demanded to know why he was being stared at. Jeonwoo pressed Buddha further, asking whether he was in or not. Buddha replied that while he might despise Taekyung, it didn't mean he hated Jeonwoo any less. He added that Jeonwoo's victory or defeat made no difference to him, since it was all the same. Besides, he questioned what help he could possibly offer. Jeonwoo promised that once it was over, he would grant Buddha any match he wanted, reminding him that their rivalry was still tied and that no winner had yet been decided. Buddha remarked that Jeonwoo was playing with fire, then asked what his plan was. Jeonwoo went on to share his strategy with him. When Jeonwoo returned to the classroom, Young asked why he was so late, joking that he thought Jeonwoo would chicken out and embarrass himself. Jeonwoo replied that if that were the case, he wouldn't have come back at all. He then handed his bet to Hyun, who accepted it with trembling hands. As the race began and the results came in, many students won large sums of money. One even suggested reporting the person who had leaked the pics to the principal. Hyun noted that Jeonwoo had wagered on red to take first place, which earned him 25 million tokens and raised his total to 25 million. Jung, however, had managed to predict all 3 places correctly, raising his winnings by 6 million for a grand total of 5 million. Yan urged Jianwu to look at the hallway crowd, pointing out that everyone had gathered to watch him face defeat. He added that they must have had some kind of plan since Jianwu was sitting there so calm and composed. Jung then proposed a new rule. The loser would have to pay the winner the total amount the winner had earned. Jianwu considered this new condition and admitted that it certainly made the game more interesting. He agreed, but clarified that it should only apply to the amount won during that match. Hyun wondered how Jianwu could accept such a risky term without hesitation, especially when it meant betting everything he had. Did Jianwu really believe he could win? He recalled Jianwu's earlier claim that he would win if he faced Buddha and couldn't help but wonder what was truly happening. He had just seen Jianwu place his entire fortune, 25 million tokens, on the line. Up until then, Jianwu had only been betting in small increments of 10,000 each round, so it had to be part of a larger plan to seize the lead. Just then, Buddha entered the room and asked what the crowd had gathered for. The others murmured among themselves, recognizing him but questioning why he was there at all, since everyone knew he disliked gambling. Hyun thought that if Buddha had shown up, then he must have already spoken with Jaeonwoo. He silently thanked God, believing that Jaeonwoo's plan was unfolding as intended. Still, he couldn't ignore the troubled look on Jaeonwoo's face and wondered what sadness weighed on him. Buddha walked over to Jung and asked if he was the one challenging Jaeonwoo. Jung responded with confusion, asking what he meant by that. Buddha revealed that he already had access to the leaked pics and pointed out that Jung had been so absorbed in the game that he hadn't even realized it. He suggested that Jung create a hidden second account where he could discreetly deposit the winnings from the leaked information. Yeon was stunned, unable to believe that Jaeonwoo had knowledge of the leaked pics and was setting up a second account. Buddha confirmed it with a nod and urged Jung to stay focused on the match. He reminded him to defeat Jaeonwoo, but warned him not to cause any problems for Taekyung. Seojai told Jung that if it had not been for him, Jung would not have overcome the situation. He added that he did not believe the other party, who had given him the leaked fix, would have done so for free, and warned him to wake up. Jung asked why Seojai was bringing that up, pointing out that if Jaeonwoo and Buddha did not really know each other, then he already knew Jaeonwoo was secretly obtaining the leaked pictures. However, Jaeonwoo had been raising income by using sub-accounts, which made him question the point of Seojai's argument. Jaeonwoo, meanwhile, pretended to be unaware of the leaked pictures and still submitted the smallest picture to the judge, though the amount was false. The truth was that greater profits could be made through the sub-accounts compared to the leaked pictures. Jung reasoned that this was why Jaeonwoo had been carelessly betting small amounts, hoping for a big opportunity to turn things around. It also suggested that if different amounts appeared, Jung could claim them as invalid, even though he himself had been playing with leaked pictures. Jung thought that if Jaeonwoo believed he could not corner the judge and conspire with him, he was mistaken. He laughed to himself, knowing he had already learned everything thanks to Jaeonwoo's only friend, Hyun. He recalled his conversation with Hyun, where Hyun revealed that Jaeonwoo had spoken to him about the leaked pictures. At that time, Jaeonwoo had even questioned other classmates about them on Messenger by pretending to be someone else. Hyun had advised Jaeonwoo to wait until Jung became careless, and now he was demanding that Jung give him 30% of his winnings as promised. The scene shifted back to the present, where Seojai, holding the phone, said he wanted to see Jaeonwoo's leaked pictures and also wanted to build a good home. Jaeonwoo remarked that Seojai had really changed, which angered Seojai, who shouted at him to shut up, refusing to even look at him. He then ordered them to begin the game and told someone to reveal the leaked pictures. Hyun appeared worried at that time. Then the game began, and people discovered they were heading to the bridge. The leaked pictures had indicated that the outcome would follow the Glendale order, and everyone grew excited, eagerly watching from outside while whispering about the leaks. Someone even mentioned that a bet of 2 million cash had been placed. When the results came in, it showed, then lead, exactly as the leaks had revealed. Hyun remarked that Jaeonwoo had correctly predicted the first, second, and third places, earning 2 million cash, which raised his total capital to 5 million. Yang had also placed the correct bets, and his total climbed to 5 million. As he went on to announce the combined capital, the crowd was stunned to hear the figure, 315 million cash. The sheer amount left everyone in shock, and one man even asked Yang to prove it was real. Meanwhile, a boy suspected that Gaean Wu was using the underdog ID and had also created a similar one as a sub-account. He noticed that the underdog's last letter had been altered with a mix of lowercase and uppercase characters, making it impossible to tell which one was genuine. He thought it didn't matter, since such tactics could serve as a safeguard. After all, he himself had built the site and knew exactly how much money everyone was earning. They could even alter the slime picture in real time. In truth, Gaean Wu's chances in the game had originally been 0%. As others kept marveling at the figure of 300 million, some wished aloud that they could earn money as well. A man left quietly while Jung muttered that Gaean Wu was unaware of the situation. He wondered if Gaean Wu had a death wish because from that moment he was going all in. He told the others to just follow his lead, and they all thanked Yang for allowing them to do so. Seojai asked a boy standing beside him if he was Seojai's friend, the one who would distribute that. Another boy nearby called his friend on the phone and, before saying anything else, asked him to come down since the game was getting so crazy there. Hyun only looked at Gaean Wu, who seemed worried at the time. Gaean Wu then recalled his past, when he and his father had gone to a food stall to eat something. The shop lady had thrown a drink at his father's face while cursing him, demanding where he thought he was crawling around and whether he believed they sold food on the streets because they enjoyed it. She even warned him not to worsen the matter and questioned why he was pressing down on them with the law, shouting that he should go directly to national affairs and leave the street vendors alone. The man pressed Gaean Wu's head, saying it was totally fine, and apologized to the lady, admitting it was all because he was not good enough. They both left afterward, and Gaean Wu went away. He remembered that same lady, and during his father's election campaign, she was the one who had cried when his father supported her and gave her an egg bun. He had seen that moment on TV. He then asked why she had supported his agenda back then, but had suddenly changed her opinion now, while everyone acted in the name of their own democracy. His father explained that although it might have seemed like he had a reason, in reality, he was running for Congress out of a desire for power, and that the law on cracking down on street vendors aimed to remove the illegal ones in order to maintain the city's beauty, though the vendors saw it as an attempt to snatch away their livelihood. It was explained that it was not about bad policy, and Gaean Wu had to understand that there were both good and bad people in the world. He was reminded that humans could go back on their words at any time if they felt something was no longer beneficial to them. The reminders then stopped, as they thought it was a simple matter. The sixth game ended, the dangles came out, and it turned out to be the sixth fold again. Seojai was genuinely happy that he had earned 50,000 won on his own. A man noticed how delighted Seojai was with that amount of money. The students then wondered how much Jung had made, recalling that earlier he had earned around 300 million won. Soon they heard someone say that Jung's total earnings had reached 575 billion, and his entire capital now stood at 89 billion won. That made Jung pause for a moment, wondering if something was wrong. People told him it was nothing, but he thought he was getting nervous just from hearing the numbers and questioned whether it was really all right like that. Meanwhile, people were rushing about the leaked photos, saying they would get them from the man who was now making billions through those leaks. The developer of the game was on a call with Gale, saying it was getting close and that he wished he had dealt with Gaean Wu instead of Jung, though sending Buddha over had helped somewhat. He told Gale he would compensate him as well. Gale, however, seemed angered, saying it appeared the man still had not figured out his situation. The boy then noticed a huge crowd of people gathered around the class, all talking about the leaked photos. Inside the class, Gaean Wu wondered what to do, as he could not endure it anymore. He thought about giving up there and settling with what he already had. Hyun looked confused, and Gaean Wu explained that he had been feeling strange since earlier, and that even if he tried to exchange, he still would not have any money. The scene then shifted to Seojai, where others were saying that they could not exchange the money at that moment. Gale, injured and lying on the bed, was on a call with the game developer, saying that Buddha truly hated gambling and knew about Gale's involvement in the scam. He asked if Buddha had beaten the boy and said he would rather be hit by a truck than go through that again. The boy thought Buddha hadn't come to mess with Jian-woo, but was simply shocked by something, while Gale wondered if Buddha had realized he was just a decoy and that their real target wasn't Young. The boy mentioned that he had Gale's number and could contact him any time before cutting the call. The scene then shifted to the classroom, where Jian-woo said that since Young had leaked the pictures, he knew Young had been secretly betting just $1,000,000. Jian-woo asked if he was nervous and admitted he was afraid of raising the stakes without a plan, adding that at most he had bet 9,000,000 won. He explained it wasn't about the money Young had gained, but about the shabby site itself. Young wondered what Jian-woo was talking about and if he was trying to dissuade him. Jian-woo, while writing something, said he was simply worried about Young and was curious about how it would feel to make such a huge profit only to be devoured by it in the end. He then handed the paper to Hyun, saying he couldn't help him exchange it since it was only a leaked picture, and asked if they should get involved. Gale, on the call with the boy, wondered if he understood that the main objective of Seojai was Jian-woo and thought about turning the school upside down. Jian-woo told Hyun that he was looking forward to the destruction of the site and wondered how many students believed in him and how quickly it would all turn against him. The boy mentioned that the incident had happened unfortunately and that it would have been better if Gale had fought Jian-woo instead of North. He added that sending Buddha in that direction had been helpful and that at least a bit of compensation could be offered. Gale seemed angered, pointing out that the boy still didn't understand the situation and explained that he hadn't known, so he couldn't have revealed anything over the phone. He said the boy could have stopped him if he had at least let him know who he was. Buddha discovered that Gale had been attempting to take part in fraudulent gambling, and Gale declared that he would rather be run over by a truck than be beaten by Buddha. The boy wondered if Buddha had come there to cause trouble for Jian-woo and questioned what had really happened. Gale, in turn, wondered if the boy had finally realized that everything was fake and that Buddha was a cheater. He added that with Jian-woo, the entire student body would be drawn into the game, and Jian-woo was playing in a way that could turn the entire school upside down. In the class, the game continued, and Jian-woo mentioned that the situation had progressed so far that there was no way to help it. He then asked Young to play one last fair game. Young wondered if Gaeon-woo was threatening him, saying it seemed as if Gaeon-woo really wanted to keep up with that real 5 million bond, so he would have to rest for a turn or two. He thought Jian-woo was bluffing out of nervousness because the gap was widening and the currency exchange was slower than expected. He asked if Jian-woo actually believed he would fall for that, insisting that no matter what Gaeon-woo said, he would never catch up. Other students grew excited as the game went on, saying his life was tied to the outcome, and one boy even mentioned that his life depended on it. Someone even placed 2 million on the game. As they all continued betting, Jian-woo smirked at them. When the game finished, everyone was shocked by the result. It was already the 7th game completed, and they thought Jian-woo would be finished by then. The girls talked about the result, admitting it wasn't what they had expected. They mentioned that they had requested a currency exchange earlier, but it hadn't been processed. Someone pointed out that the rule required money exchanges to be completed within 3 minutes. This made one of them nervous, and they wondered if they should ask Jung about it since he was the one with the leaks. They then revealed that Jung had a total capital of 34 billion, while Geon-woo only had 5 million. The other students were shocked to hear that Jung had access to such a massive amount of money. Jian-woo began considering the seriousness of Jung's gambling, which slowly brought the gambling-addicted students back to reality. They realized that business people running a private gambling site aimed to profit from it and could easily draw over 1 billion won from people, even with outrageous results. Jung himself started realizing it too. He wondered why he had just lost 8 billion won and lowered his head, thinking he no longer wanted to keep chasing after losses. He began losing his sense of reality since his income had always been in the billions. Whenever he thought about it, he realized it had stopped at 300 million in the first place. He wondered when he should have stopped so that he wouldn't need to worry about having a selfish mind. He admitted that he had risen through gambling and thought that if the odds were really that high, he should have graduated already. The problem, however, was not about winning, but that the moment he got defrauded, he would be left with nothing. He reminded himself that Jeon-woo had gone all in and kept pushing for everything to be bet, and then he wondered if that had been a secret plan. Young was sitting when his friends came, pulling him aside and saying they were furious because he had not been working with the site to get a share, which fit the strange situation. Young appeared frightened, and a man remarked that, regardless, it was a game in which he had won 10 billion, but the exchange was currently not working. They questioned where the leak had come from, as it was difficult to find such a perfect source. Young angrily shouted for them to shut up, blaming them for not taking it when he had given, and insisted it was their fault that he had placed the wrong bets. They glared at him, wondering if he really wanted to mess with all of them. Geon-woo then received a notification and said it was a relief that he had gotten the money. Young asked if he was certain about it, and Geon-woo confirmed by showing him the notification he had received. When a boy checked, he realized the exchange was functioning. Geon-woo told him to act quickly since many people would rush to exchange after the game, and the site owner might claim that some did not qualify and escape with the money, leaving only a few to manage an exchange. They were shocked and hurried to exchange, fearful of losing their money. Geon-woo stood up, mentioning that since he had launched, he was satisfied with the 10 million he had earned. However, he told Young to request an exchange as soon as possible and asked if he would pay some money to the person who had provided the leak. He assumed that Young would still be able to make a real exchange. As Geon-woo was leading strongly, Young clutched his shirt, asking him to wait, with tears in his eyes. The scene shifted to the principal's office, where a teacher was complaining about Geon-woo and insisting he should be expelled as soon as possible, since he was disturbing the school's ecosystem and action needed to be taken before something serious happened. The principal wondered how they should proceed, and why the teacher was so intent on expelling Geon-woo. The teacher responded that they could simply add a few reasons. Principal Dean Kam, sipping his coffee, remarked that it could be misunderstood and told the teacher to be careful with his words. He explained that a student was like a tree of hope branching into the country's future, and just because a leaf appeared dirty did not mean the roots should be pulled out. He then stood up saying Geon-woo should be left alone as long as he caused no problems, and added that he personally had many expectations for him. While the teacher was still hesitating, another female teacher entered and reported that there was trouble among the second-year students, who were causing a ruckus in the hall. The teacher questioned what she meant, and she urged him to come and see for himself, as the situation was worse than expected. When they went out, they saw students discussing the exchange of currency and asking if anyone had the phone number or email of the company. As the students were causing trouble in the corridor, a teacher came out, wondering what they were doing and telling them to stop immediately, return to their classes, and study instead of wandering around the hall. When the students kept demanding their money back, the teacher shouted, asking if they had even heard him, and demanded to know the class of one particular boy. Holding a stick in his hand, he tried to intimidate them, but the boy ignored him and shouted that 3 months' worth of academy fees were vanishing, and questioned why the teacher kept doing this to him. The teacher grew annoyed and yelled at the boy, warning him not to speak to a teacher like that. Still, the boy refused to listen, shouting that he would only go back to class once he got his money. At that point, a female teacher explained that Geon-woo and some other students had been gambling inside, and a leaked cheat, also the site wasn't exchanging the money, had caused the rest of the students to gather in chaos. The principal was truly annoyed, and the math teacher mentioned that it was Geon-woo once again who had been troubling them for days. He added that Geon-woo had claimed he would change the entire school within a year, so they should expel him before he caused more trouble. The principal remarked that the heaven's net might be vast and wide, but it would not let anything slip through. He said he needed to see Ka-young and told him to come to his office immediately. In Geon-woo's class, he wondered what Young was doing and why he was crying so disgracefully. Young said that Geon-woo had actually gotten a currency exchange and asked what he was talking about. Geon-woo explained that he hadn't received the money, which made Young question if that was true, since no one had been able to get real currency. Geon-woo confirmed it, leaving Young and Hyun in shock. He then stated that he had only transferred money from a different account and that it was easy to change the sender's name. Because of that lie, the students stopped thinking about receiving the money and instead realized how the site could steal it. Geon-woo thought it was wrong for them to expect to get the money back. Young asked if Geon-woo had known it would turn out like that. Geon-woo replied that he had done what he needed to and that there was no reason to mention it. He said everything was the result of Young digging his own grave and asked him to just look at the students who had gathered there because of the leak. He added that if Young had stayed quiet, they wouldn't have gathered and Geon-woo would not have lost. but Young had exposed it publicly and created problems for himself. Gyeon-woo recalled that a man had once told him to remember that he was the kind of person who could completely change if he thought there was nothing left to gain. Gyeon-woo then told Young that every man worked for his own profit, and if one became blinded by it, he would fall into gambling. Since so many people saw the benefit, the site owner would simply take the money and disappear. He explained that the site administrator was human as well, and although it was illegal, no one would care if he fled. Gyeon-woo pointed out that Young must have at least known that much, which was why he had only bet a small amount, 1 million won at a time. Gyeon-woo added that his own task had been simple. He only needed to make Young lower his guard so that he would eventually wager a huge amount. He wanted Young to convince himself that he understood Gyeon-woo's strategy and to believe he was the one controlling the situation. Young, shocked, admitted that Gyeon-woo had tricked him into thinking he knew the strategy, while in reality, Gyeon-woo had been playing with him from the beginning. With the others, Gyeon-woo had not betrayed him, but had actually been helping him. Gyeon-woo remained silent, but Seojai slammed the table and asked Young what he planned to do now, whether he understood his situation and if he would admit defeat. Seojai said he had many questions to ask as well. Young wondered why he should be the one answering questions and why he should accept defeat. He protested that the faulty site was not his responsibility and insisted that he had been winning. Enraged, Seojai grabbed him by the collar, questioning whether Young had lost his mind. Young then pulled out a knife, saying he could not forgive Seojai, that the game was invalid, and demanding to be released. Meanwhile, a man was running through the corridor while on a call with the private gambling office in Seoul, Hyuk. He said that everyone was claiming only Gyeon-woo had received the money and asked if they had actually returned it to him. Hyuk denied it, but the man insisted he check again. After verifying, Hyuk said there was nothing and explained they were ignoring all the requests for exchange. He wondered if they were really about to shut down the site. The man told him to wait and ensure that no exchanges were given to anyone. Hyuk, confused, remarked that just because one man had earned some money, things were escalating like this. The other replied that it was only natural because money was power. The president thought that the site could be shut down even though it wasn't worth 100 million won, which could still generate decent money given the surplus of demand. He reasoned that even if they shut it down and ran, all they had to do was change the name and design to promote it again. The problem, however, lay with the kids. Young had dragged in a lot of students, and even the slightest slip could cause distrust in the school's gambling system. He admitted that he couldn't afford to give them the currency exchange. Young had spent everything he had on the game, yet the president considered him a useful tool. Now that Young was in debt, he would have to survive, and for that, he would be forced to listen to the president. The president decided that first, he would use Young to win the game again. In Gyeon-woo's class, Hyun slammed a book against Young, wondering who had claimed that the game was invalid. Gyeon-woo appreciated Hyun's action. With that hit, the knife fell from Young's hand, and he wondered if the other even knew what he had just done, as he had been going easy on him. Gyeon-woo then saw Seojai kick Young in the face, making him fall in front of all the students, who were shocked by the scene. Seojai said he was the one targeting Young and was so furious that he would make sure Young could never show his face like that again. Gyeon-woo stopped him, but Seojai insisted on being let go. Gyeon-woo wondered how he could make Young faint after all that effort, warning that if Seojai continued, both of them might end up deceived. He asked Seojai to calm down and sit, assuring him that Young wouldn't escape, and added that if Seojai wanted to get himself expelled, he was free to do so. The other students, also furious at Young, demanded proof, calling the whole matter a scam, and questioned whether Young even realized how much money they had lost because of him. Another voice grew angry at Young, demanding an explanation of what was happening. Everyone was worried they might have been scammed, but Young clarified that it wasn't just for that day. Those who were addicted to gambling had always been the ones getting scammed, and in the end, no one made money except for one person. They wondered what that meant. Hyun recalled a past conversation with Gyeon-woo, where Gyeon-woo had said he wanted to set up a double track, first making it seem like he had the winning picks, which he was scheming with, and then, once Young noticed, feeding him false information. When Young became uneasy and raised his bets to ridiculous amounts, the site would shut down, refuse payouts, and scam everyone through the game. Hyun wondered what would happen after that. Gaeon-woo explained that they first needed to get those pics from someone and then gather everyone to challenge him. This meant that someone from the class, aware of their situation, was trying to push him out of the leader group. The one who originally had the accurate pics must have been the person attempting to push him out, since those pics were 100% correct. Hyun wondered what Gaeon-woo truly meant by that. The students urged Hyun to explain it so they could understand. At that moment, Gaeon-woo picked up the phone near Young, saying he would explain everything and reveal that the only person who had gained from the scam was the one controlling Young. The scene shifted to the programmer, who was wondering what Gaeon-woo was planning. Both of them had already passed the 8th game, so he questioned whether the game had stopped because of the mess. It couldn't just end like that. At the very least, Young had to win, and Gaeon-woo needed to step down from the leader group before it was over. Since he hadn't heard any fighting from the class, he thought Gaeon-woo might be trying to persuade Young to switch sides. Feeling uneasy, he called Young to see if he would answer. When Young picked up, the boy told him not to worry about the others and to simply do as instructed. He promised to send 30 million and urged Young to forget about whether it was a scam, insisting that he only needed to deal with Gaeon-woo. Since he had built the site, he knew that Gaeon-woo hadn't received his payout yet, and he assured Young that if he kept going, he would surely win. From the other side, Gaeon-woo remarked that it seemed the boy already knew Young was with them and was also aware of the lie Gaeon-woo had told about his payout. Gaeon-woo then wondered if the boy was actually in their class and whether he really believed he could get away with scamming them all. He declared that he wasn't going to give up his position in the leader group and warned the boy that once he was finished with Young, the boy would be next. Later, the boy called someone and ordered the site to be shut down. He even confronted Young directly, revealing that he was behind it all. Gaeon-woo had promised to help Young, so Young withdrew from the game in exchange. Although he didn't earn any money, Gaeon-woo managed to retain his place in the leader group. The students who had tried to make big money using the leaked pics became broke instantly, yet everyone who had lost in the scheme believed their failure was due to foul play, rather than their own actions. The next day, the principal sat with the vice principal and a teacher. Vice Principal Seong reported that students and parents were continuing to file complaints, and some parents whose children had lost millions were threatening to go to the media. He warned that if they didn't act immediately, the situation might also become dangerous for them. The principals felt they had left the issue exposed to the students for too long, and someone suggested temporarily banning gambling. They argued that the students' main duty was to study, and that it was the right time to strengthen their knowledge with a challenging test. A teacher sprang to his feet, insisting the gambling itself was not the only problem, and warning that if they did nothing about the students who had been ripping others off, those responsible would face serious consequences. The principal wondered whether money was really the only thing he should be worried about.